Hey, what's going on, my friends? It's now 3 o'clock. Chad here. Last night, the Mavericks take game one of the Western Conference Finals in Minnesota. Anthony Edwards struggled, made just 6 of 16 from the field, played 41 minutes, and after the game talked about fatigue.
Kyrie got a transition layup from, I think we scored, and he just outran me. I was just exhausted, man. So, yeah, for sure. But we'll be all right.
Game two is going to be Friday at 5:30 on TNT. Tonight, game two of the Eastern Conference Finals. It's a 5 o'clock tip on ESPN. The Pacers at the Celtics. Boston favored by 9.5 after winning game one in overtime. Kristaps Porzingis is targeting game four to make his return to the Celtics lineup. Coming up next, you got the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. And we got goodies to give away, including another pair of tickets for Bill Currington, who's going to be at the Clark County Fairgrounds August 2nd.
The Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad, presented by Lazy Boy. What is your strategy for comfort?
Doncic on the left side. He'll take a three from there and bury it. Luka Doncic has got 7 straight, and the Mavs retake the lead, 91-89. Conley's free throw off the back rim, no. Ball batted around. Irving's got it, and the game is over. Dallas wins game one in the Twin Cities, 108-105. Brilliant performances from the two Maverick stars. Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving combined for 63 points as the Mavs win game one on the road.
You're never happy to lose. It's not fun, but at the same time, I don't know. I think there's just a lot of things to build on it.
If the Beavs hang on and win, they hope for Arizona to beat Cal tonight, and that means the Beavers would play on tomorrow. The strike one pitch is hooked deep and foul. Way out of here. Foul. 0-2 the count. And now Beaver Nation, so many orange and black clad fans rising to their feet in front of me to the point that I need to stand up to see over them. No balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs, nobody on. The strike 2 fastball swung on and missed. Strike 3. Bridger Holmes gets back up on the horse and records a 1-2-3 save.
Strap in. The Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad starts now.
All right, what's going on, my friends? Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. We got a pair of tickets for Billy Currington we'll give away coming up later in the show. He's going to be at the Clark County Fairgrounds on August 2nd. And we're, of course, going to talk about the Western Conference Finals Game 1 last night. What a game it was in Minnesota. Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals in Boston coming up tonight. We'll give you a preview. We have another Bo Nix update coming up at 5 o'clock. A lot of Bo Nix material because Sean Payton can't stop talking about his quarterback. So as long as he's going to continue to talk, we're going to continue to share, and I like that. What's up, Godfather?
It's a wonderful day, Chad. It's a wonderful day.
It is a wonderful day. I got a lot of messages about you last night following the show, and they went something like this. Chad, I don't quite understand what the Godfather is talking about regarding Rick Riz and his so-called lack of feel for the game. It baffles me. He's been broadcasting for 45 years now, beginning in the minors, along with his understanding of the game, which is second to none. And he comes across very clearly along with doing his homework, too. He is definitely going to the MLB Hall of Fame a few years from now. He's been an ambassador for the Mariners, and he's beloved by fans throughout the Pacific Northwest. Mariner fans getting upset with you. What about the Mariner broadcasters do you not like?
Well... yeah, of course they love him. He's been there 2 decades plus, and that's the key in baseball broadcasting. If you last long enough, they love you no matter what. I mean, that's been proven over and over with some bad broadcasters. But I just don't like the pacing that Riz uses. My opinion of him actually is shared by a lot of people. I realize I'm not the only one who feels that way. He's too much of a homer for me. Yells too much, like Sims, yells too much, and gets way too excited about Monday night games in the middle of May.
I think broadcasters are like different types of food dishes or anything else that we enjoy. I like Riz and I like Sims. I have no issues with them whatsoever. There are other broadcasters I don't like. I like Reggie Miller, and most people hate him and can't stand him. Yeah. I don't like Stan Van Gundy, he drives me insane. I don't mind Doris Burke. Mike Breen, who everyone thinks is the best, I think is good, but not the best. It's just funny how we all hear different things when it comes to different announcers.
Yeah, and, a lot of it is who you listen to as a kid, because that's when you were really involved with listening to games on the radio, and especially if you're our age. And so you tend to like people who are like those people. I mean, I was a Vince Scully guy. I listened to him, along with Bob Blackburn, growing up in Portland when he was doing Oregon State and the Portland Beavers and everything else that Bob did. Then he went to Seattle, did the Sonics. He was great. A lot of people grew up with Sean's, and now we're hearing people calling us and say, nobody's ever been better than Brian Wheeler. Well, Brian was here a long time. I'm not saying he wasn't great. He was, but people love the ones that they hear, especially if those guys are around long enough.
Yes, and the ones that grow up with Trav will say 10 or 15 years from now, Travis is the best voice the Blazers have ever had.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is who you grew up with. The only constant I've heard in broadcasting, when it comes to sports broadcasters, there are very few, but Al Michaels, I have not heard anyone say, not really down with Al Michaels.
Agree.
He's awesome. Vince Scully. I haven't heard anyone say that they don't like Scully, his style, or the way he broadcasted a game.
Yeah.
He
That's
was
an instant. If you say that, that's just instantly you don't know what you're talking about.
Yes. Even with Howard Cosell, who was a lightning rod for controversy, most people would agree that he was a sensational broadcaster, a legend.
Yeah. Yeah. And he had the courage to be different. And, I mean, there's still been nobody doing games the way Cosell did them.
He was a unique in the way he did it.
Yeah.
But when you're going to be that guy and do it that way, then there are going to be people who will criticize you because you're going to be different. The other one would be Jim Nantz. Everyone appears to be okay with Jim Nantz, no matter what he's calling, whether it's golf or football or the college basketball that he did for years.
Don't you think he works really hard at not being offensive? I mean, I won't say he's bland, because I don't think he's bland, but he's not really out on a limb very much.
No, but that's the role he has to play in that position. He can allow his color guys. Tony Romo's plenty crazy.
Yeah.
So Jim Nantz can just be himself and allow Tony to get all hyped up and drugged up or whatever he does to get all crazy. I'm not really sure what it is, sauced up or whatever.
There's a lot of opinions on what he is on the air, yes.
Settle down, Tony.
Yeah.
All right, so there you go. Dwight, irritating Mariner fans one at a time.
Well, the Mariners irritate a lot of Mariner fans, too. So that's all I can say.
I wish the broadcasters were the biggest concern about the team.
Yeah, no kidding.
The big question is, will Jerry DiPoto actually go out and do something at the deadline to beef up their lineup, to give them the offense they need, the run support to be able to truly compete? That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, and I think it goes all the way up to ownership and whether or not they're willing to spend money to do that. And I think sometimes his hands are tied, I would guess. He can't say that because you can't throw your owner under the bus. But, we'd be a lot better if the owner would let me do my job. That doesn't work. But, they've got to this year, Chad. Their window won't be open forever. They've got great pitching, great starting pitching, and they need to make a move. They need to go for it. And at the trade deadline, make that big move.
All right, so my mom Venmo'd me money today. And I got her set up on Venmo. And
You're
now
kind
she
of
thinks,
old to have your mommy Venmoing you money.
Well, it's not for me.
Oh.
I'm about to explain that. So I got my mom set up on Venmo. And at first she didn't want to do it because, well, what if someone steals my identity or this or that or whatever? I had to walk her through the encryption, the security. And I said, Mom, if you have this, you don't have to worry about writing checks to your friends.
It's the greatest.
Or the people at church or whatever. Just Venmo money. It's that simple. It's that quick, and it instantly comes out of your account, so you don't have to worry about your ledger.
That's right.
It's genius. So she sends me $35 today, and she said, I need you to give this to Isaac. He's going to want it before your trip to Idaho. This is for mowing the lawn. And I'm like, $35? Are you freaking kidding me? And I'm not joking. The same lawn, and it's not even the same lawn now because they've added some different features, bark dust and a water feature, so it's less grass to mow than what it was when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
I got paid $5 to mow the front and backyard where my parents live. $5.
Haven't you ever heard of inflation, Chad? Things
My
cost
goodness.
more nowadays.
Isaac is getting 7 times the money to mow a lesser lawn than what I did when I was a kid.
Uh-huh.
I see that, and I'm just like, are you kidding me? And, of course, it won't do any good to complain or have sour grapes because my parents really don't care. They just want to give him as much money as they think is necessary to make sure he's happy. So Isaac getting 7 times the money to mow the lawn, and we're making preparations to head out to Idaho this weekend for Memorial Day weekend, and he is geeked up about it. The one thing that drives me crazy about my son, I like to keep to myself. I don't overshare. There are a lot of people I have in my life that overshare about everything.
Yeah, you don't at all.
Yeah, I keep to myself. And if something comes up or if someone asks me a direct question, then I'll answer the question. But until then, I've learned from my dad at a young age that you don't need to tell people everything. And as I've gotten older, I think he's right. You don't need to. But Isaac is the exact opposite. He likes to tell everybody everything. And so he frequents the same Starbucks that I do every morning to run in and get my Americano. And so the baristas that I know and have known for a long time, because I go to the same place every day, Isaac hangs out there now, and they know that he's my son. So he shares and overshares everything. So these baristas are getting details about my life that I would prefer they didn't have details about because Isaac shares everything. So they know all about the trip, everything that's going to go down. And I'm always getting questions now. Well, Isaac said this. What's going on with that? And I'm like, dang it, son. He can't do it. He is an oversharer. I got to work with him on that, but I don't think I can change him, man. That's the way he rolls. So he is pumped about the trip. He's been telling everyone. He's got his countdown, so he's ready to roll. And we're set up for the Shiloh.
He's sharing details, but you're not. I just want to know what you're going to do in the big city of Napa, Idaho.
Well, that's the whole thing is that when we go on road trips, I don't set an agenda of items that we're going to do or
Sure,
that
it's his
I want to
trip,
do.
right?
It's his trip.
Yeah.
So I really just tell him, hey, you pick the place, give me the route that you want to take, and it has to be within reason because sometimes he's trying to get me to go like 3 hours out of the way to get to the same location. So I'm not going to go crazy like that. But he picks the route, and then we take off. And then when we get there, I just let him choose and pick where he wants to go. Sometimes he wants to go outside of the town or the city and go on a walk. Sometimes he wants to drive up, and maybe there's a place that he's picked up on the map that he wants to go and venture out to. He always picks out different restaurants he wants to check out. And then when we're there at a location for a particular weekend, he likes to pick different churches that we go to. So he's got a church picked out that we'll go to on Sunday. He's got a couple of restaurants picked out. He's really ticked off and gave Shiloh a piece of their mind because the restaurant that they had that was attached to the hotel, I think it closed down probably during COVID. Isaac used to love to hit that in the mornings, go down and get his pancakes or whatever. He likes going to eat by himself. He thinks it's cool.
Yeah.
And they don't have it anymore. So he's a little bit irritated by that. But he's picked out some other locations. So really, there's no real pleasure in it for me other than rolling around with Isaac to wherever he wants to go. That's really what it's all about. That's how we roll.
Before we go to break, I want to just tell people, if you're not kind of watching this on YouTube today, you're kind of missing out. So you should go Rip City Radio on YouTube because there's a nice little slide on the screen right now that you might be interested in. And Mike Shacker, he takes it off as soon as I say it.
Yeah, Michael Shacker has been.
He's playing.
He's in cahoots with Chris Burkhardt. They're creating graphics to put up on the YouTube page.
And the headline today is now with better SEO.
Yeah.
Because we've been getting a bad time from somebody on the comments about getting better SEO.
Well, what Shacker did, he sent me this feature on Cameron Brink yesterday, the now WNBA player who went to Stanford. She is spectacular and beautiful, and she wants to be in SI, the swimsuit issue. And so I got these pictures, and so now I think they put me in a picture, cropped my head off, and now I'm in a picture with Cameron Brink, I believe.
Yeah, I would guess more than one picture, actually.
All right, we'll keep things rolling. Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. Oh, by the way, Godfather, this weekend officially kicks off Yacht Rock season.
Yes!
So Yacht Rock, the channel on the satellite, will get moved down into the below the hundreds, probably somewhere around 14 or...
Yeah, it's a more accessible area.
Yes, for people who have Sirius or XM, then you're dialed in and can listen to Yacht Rock. So that's always a good thing. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk about Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals the struggles for Minnesota down the stretch, and what was wrong with Anthony Edwards. He was either hurt or gassed, or I don't know what was going on, but Dallas got the win, and we're going to get into it next. I'll tell you what, Godfather, I still cannot get over the change that we've seen in Kyrie Irving. And that's what I was thinking about last night after game one. And then listening to him in the TNT postgame, just his overall demeanor, the way he's handling himself, the way he's played this year with Luka, the way he has really not been a headline whatsoever. And this is the same guy that went AWOL during his time in Brooklyn. He disappeared, and no one knew where he was at. Someone asked Steve Nash at the time, who was his head coach, where's Kyrie? And he's like, I have no idea. He went AWOL, and then he had some issues with things he was posting on social media, concerns about anti-Semitic comments. There were a lot of bad things going on, but most importantly for the team he was playing for, not being reliable, not being a good teammate. And there were thoughts that he may never get another big deal, that his time in the NBA might be up. And yet here we are today where he's got the Mavericks along with Luka in the Western Conference Finals. He's playing great basketball, and he's being a team guy he has bought in. It's truly impressive. And I was very critical of Kyrie when he was going sideways.
Sure.
But when a guy turns himself around, I just have to applaud it and say, that's the Kyrie we know. And I'm glad that he's done this because now people can realize once again and recognize and be able to watch him. He's one of the great basketball players of my lifetime. He's terrific. And I love to see what he's done right now. And credit to him for doing what was necessary to turn it around, buy into the team concept and what Kid wants him to do. And then more importantly, just proving everyone wrong, because when they made the move for Kyrie, we all thought it was going to be a disaster. And it's been the exact opposite. It's been a smashing success. And I didn't see that coming at all. You didn't. Nobody did. It's amazing.
No, you were asking me today, what changed him? Why did he change? It's like, I wish I knew. I mean, because this is like frontal lobotomy kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy has totally turned around and gone completely the other direction from where this is a flat earther. This is a guy who caused all kinds of problems with everything he said. He was contrary. I don't know. Now, I mean, he's given the best interviews of anybody in these playoffs. He's very, very concise in what he says. He's very complimentary to his opponents and his teammates. He comes across as a model citizen, which I've never thought of him being.
Yeah, it's amazing. What are you seeing on the floor in terms of Kyrie and Luka together and how it's working? What are you seeing? What's impressing you with the way they're playing?
Well, you know, I think they defer to each other, really, and they're both great enough players to see when it's time to do that.
Yeah.
And that takes an awful lot of intelligence and lack of ego, I think. And but when you see them out there, they play differently enough to make it work, because I'm telling you, when Kyrie makes up his mind to go to the basket, there's no stopping him. I mean, those little floaters he throws up and the reverse layups and just getting shots away against bigger players, he's unparalleled. Nobody does it as well as he does. And then Luka can get to the basket, but his pull-up stuff is better. His threes are better. They're just a real tough cover because one of them is small and quick. The other one is tall, not so quick, but very shifty and clever. So they're tough to guard.
Well, you mentioned the interviews. This is from the TNT postgame last night. Charles Barkley asking him about the comments from Anthony Edwards after they won Game 7 when he basically proclaimed, like, I've got Kyrie.
Yeah.
He wanted him.
Yeah. Not only wanted him, but made it sound like he's got him.
Yeah.
You know, like he can take care of it.
I got this. Well, last night, Kyrie wore his ass out. But take a listen to Kyrie Irving and really the respect he pays to Ant, but the way he took those comments and, you know, helped prepare himself for Game 1 that we saw last night.
And then the young fella says, I got Kyrie. So, and you said, excuse me?
Yeah.
And he said it again. He said, I got Kyrie.
Yep.
That's the most aggressive you've been in a long time.
Yes, sir.
I know that had to irk you a little bit.
Use it as a motivation. You know, when I was sitting at home and I saw it, I was like, it's just a nod of respect. And then also, I knew what type of game it was going to be for Game 1 and also for the rest of the series. So you're right. I was at home with my family watching Game 7.
You just minded your own business.
And then Ant comes out and says, I got Kyrie, but also that's a no-fear mentality. And that's why we love Ant. So coming out tonight, I knew that he was going to pressure me a little bit. But I knew that they were coming off a Game 7, grueling game. So their legs were biting them a little bit tonight. So hopefully Game 2, they come back and, they settle a little bit more, but we'll be prepared.
See, that's the way you handle that. He didn't disrespect Ant. He wasn't butthurt that Ant wanted him. He saw it for what it was. Anthony Edwards saying, look, I want Kyrie. He wanted that challenge. And it showed respect to Kyrie that Ant would say that. And that's the way Kyrie took it. And he realized, like, hey, I got to get myself ready to go for game one because Minnesota's tough and Anthony Edwards is a handful. And Dallas went out there and got the win, and Kyrie played extremely well.
He even made an excuse, really, for the Timberwolves, saying their legs were barking at him a little bit tonight. And, yeah, they probably were. That was probably – I think when I look back, that's entirely possible. They only had one day off in between series, which is very difficult.
Kyrie last night, 40 minutes, Godfather. He finished with 30 points, 5 boards, 4 assists. He was 12 of 23 from the field.
Yeah.
And he scored in a variety of different ways. You were talking about his ability to, get in the lane, and he can finish in so many different ways. His handle, the kids don't see the work that he puts in, but really it's all about the fundamentals. His handle is so good. And then he's got the ability to use right or left hand and get creative with it so he can finish over the top around the big guys.
Yeah, and he's not one of those guys that we see so often in modern basketball who stands 35 feet out dribbling between his legs just to show people he can do it, but not trying to get around anyone by doing it. There's nothing wasted with Kyrie. It's all about getting to the basket or getting around his man. He's so good, no wasted effort, but the best handle in basketball, I would say.
No question. In fact, here's Anthony Edwards talking about the fatigue after the game.
Kyrie got a transition layup from, I think we scored, and he just outran me. And I was just exhausted, man. So, yeah, for sure. But we'll be all right.
And he didn't shoot the ball well last night. And, there were comments. Reggie Miller thought he was hurt. And you could see him kind of doubled over in the fourth quarter, gasping for air.
Yeah.
And he was just exhausted. Is that what it was? Was it fatigue? Coming off the Game 7, which was just Sunday in Denver, and then all of a sudden you show up, it's Wednesday night, you're in Minnesota playing Game 1, and Dallas is ready to go. What was going on there?
Well, I think I'd start by saying when you're 22 years old and the guy you're trying to guard is probably, 15 years older than you, you ought to be able to not tire out that quickly. But that said, here's the thing on that. The mental pressure that those guys were under in the Game 7 at Denver can take a lot out of you physically. The mental pressure, it does that to you. It weakens you physically. And I think they had more trouble recovering from that than they did the physical strain. But it's still, I'm telling you, there ought to be a rule that one day between one series and another should never happen. You should get 2 because of the preparation needed to play your new opponent. That's a lot of cramming. That's like not studying for your test in college, your final exam, until the night before. That's what it reminds me of. And there's too much information for that amount of time.
All right, the question I have in terms of adjustments, that's what I love about playoff series is the adjustments and the way teams will tweak from game to game. Well, last night, Minnesota struggled, with their drop coverage. Are we going to see them move to a double? Like, what's the adjustment going to be for Game 2 to where they can do a better job at the point of attack trying to slow down Luka?
Yeah, it's going to be difficult, and there's several things. You can play the pick and roll so many different ways, and you don't have to play drop all the time. I think the best thing always is to play different coverages and not telegraph it before you play it. And these teams that come out, like the Blazers used to do, and play drop coverage 48 minutes a night, 82 games a year, I don't think that works anymore. I think what you have to do is blitz sometimes, show sometimes, hard show sometimes, force the ball the other way. There's a lot of things you can do. Yeah, mix in a drop once in a while. But it just seems like when you have players like Luka and players like Kyrie, they just eat that drop coverage up. They know how to play it. And also, you try to blitz Kyrie or Luka, it can be a problem for you too, because they're just going to back you out, pull the double team out away from the basket so they have a little more room, and then hit the open man.
What's amazing is Minnesota lost that game last night. They were plus 36 at the three-point line.
Wow.
Dallas, here would be the concern if I'm a Timberwolves fan, Godfather. And you and I talk about the three-pointer all the time. The reason why you attempt them or continue to shoot them is that it's not about the percentage as much as it is, can you make more than your opponent?
Yeah.
And the Timberwolves were able to do that.
Yeah.
All right, so here would be my concern. Dallas last night shot just 6 of 25 from 3. They were 24%. Not a good number for them.
No.
So with the adjustment in defense, if they use the double, that means that there's going to be open three-point shooters.
Mm-hmm.
And Dallas is probably looking at it saying, man, we won the game on a night when we didn't shoot the ball well. They'll make the adjustments, and now our guys are going to have a chance to get some open looks from 3. That would be a concern.
That's a great point because we've seen this over and over. If you have a lousy night shooting from 3, the next game you're going to have a big night. And it works in reverse, too. We've seen it with the Blazers. Oh, man, they shot 58% from 3. Well, look out tomorrow because they're likely to shoot 30. It's just percentages from 3 are hard to beat. You can't beat those percentages. They're going to come bite you almost every time.
All right, Minnesota, we talk a lot about their defense, and rightfully so. They were the best defense in the league this year. Their defense in the Denver series was terrific, also in the first round against Phoenix. But Dallas is playing great defense right now.
Yeah.
And it really started after the trade deadline, and all of a sudden they've got more length. They've got multiple guys who can protect the rim. But what is Jason Kidd doing to get the most out of that defense? What are you seeing from them? Because Dallas, throughout the course of the season up until the end of the year, was not considered a great defensive team.
Yeah, well, number one, Jason Kidd was a great defender himself. So I'm always surprised when his teams don't play good defense because he knows what it looks like. But I think this time there has to be more emphasis on it, Chad. They have to be working on it more because the rotations are so crisp. They have the protection at the rim where they can do more gambling, and they have smart players. Even aside from their 2 stars, they got other guys. Tim Hardaway Jr., he's a smart player. He's been around for a long time. They have smart guys on their team. It looks to me like P.J. Washington is a pretty smart player, too. He knows what he's doing. And they rotate when they're supposed to. They're very tight with their rotations. That takes practice. It takes smart players. And it takes guys who are actually pretty good at rotations.
It's impressive. I mean, you got to admit, Dallas, there's a lot of things going on there. One, they went out and got Jason Kidd. We thought that was going to be a disaster because we didn't believe in him as a coach. A lot of people had their question marks about him.
Yeah, I didn't want him to come to Portland. I thought that would have been a disaster.
All right, so that's been a smash success for Dallas. Then all of a sudden they go out there and make the moves to bring in Kyrie Irving. So they pair him with Luka. That wasn't supposed to work, but it's working.
Mm-hmm.
And now you have 2 guys who weren't considered great defenders who are playing in a part of a good defensive team led by Jason Kidd. It's not supposed to work, but it does. I have to give credit to Jason Kidd. Even Luka Doncic was making a big defensive play late in that game last night.
Yeah.
When you get all of your guys, including your star players, buying into what the coach wants to do, it makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, too. When you start having success playing that way, you don't have to sell it anymore.
Yeah.
They're selling themselves. And now I'm guessing that Luka and Kyrie are holding their teammates accountable because they're doing it. If they can do it, then everybody else better fall into place.
Man, it's pretty impressive. I was blown away. That was a good win for Dallas. I
Yeah,
thought Minnesota was going to get it done in the fourth quarter when they made that late push, and then Dallas responded once again.
Yeah, and I thought Minnesota made a mistake. They put the ball in Edwards' hands late in the game, and he was just obviously exhausted. He couldn't get anything done. He's guarded by Derrick Jones Jr. a lot of that time and couldn't beat him off the dribble. I mean, he tried, but he couldn't make any traction whatsoever. He didn't get into the paint enough. Edwards does damage in the paint. He shot too many threes. He's got to get to the paint. But that's not easy against Dallas. They make it tough on you in there.
All right, Dwight and Chad, Rip City Drive. Telephone number 503-248-0620 if you want to jump on board. Our YouTube stream is up. You can always go to ripcityradio.com on the YouTube and go to our homepage. You'll find the live links right there for all of our local shows. And we're going to give away a pair of tickets for Bill Currington coming up later. The other play late in the game that I thought was bullcrap was that offensive goaltend that was called on Karl Anthony Towns when he came flying out of nowhere and slammed it down. It turned out to be a huge play in the game, and they showed the replay a couple of times. And I was like, that's not basket interference. And yet they went to the monitor. They took a quick look at it, and they're like, the call was upheld.
Yeah.
What was your take on that?
Well, I was convinced until about 20 minutes ago that it was not basket interference. But they used Hawkeye technology, and somebody finally showed it on social media. They used that technology where they took the basket and then ran a cone straight up from there, imaginary cone, and it showed that the ball was partially within that cone. And that's what people don't understand. No part of the ball is supposed to be within the cone of the rim. It's going straight up to the ceiling.
Yeah.
Part of it was there. But that said, I've seen much more of the ball above that rim than what that play was, and they don't, they don't call that.
Chris Finch, the Timberwolves head coach, after the game, talking about their terrible offense.
Terrible offense down the stretch. Bad shots, turnovers, no composure, and thought for the same at the end of the first half. We haven't really closed quarters very well, closed halves very well over the last handful of games. It cost us one game in the Denver series. And it certainly had an impact on this game tonight, too. So we got to be better in clutch moments.
I think he nailed it. His team, not very sharp down the stretch. Uncharacteristic, right?
Yes, for sure. You got to like Finch, though, don't you? I mean, you talk about a truth teller.
Yeah.
That guy doesn't mince words. He's not covering for anybody.
No, we were terrible.
Yeah.
That
I like
pretty much
that.
sums it up.
Yeah, you don't hear that an awful lot. Usually guys are afraid to say stuff like that.
You could tell his players respect him.
Yeah.
And like you've said before, and this is how it works in sports, if you have a way that you want your guys to play and they end up having success playing that way, you can demand more from them.
Mm-hmm.
Once you show them that, hey, I know what I'm talking about,
right.
guys buy in, and then you can coach them harder.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, that's what's going on there, I'm sure.
This looks like it's going to be a good, long series, doesn't it?
Oh, man. I hope all the games are as good as that one. That was a really good game.
Even with the sloppiness in that second half last night, it still made for compelling basketball. In fact, game one of the Eastern Conference Finals, great game, overtime, and last night, right down to the end, awesome.
I thought that neither team had more than a 5-point lead the whole second half. That's what it seemed like. There was just back and forth. You couldn't really tell who was going to win until the last minute or so.
All right, we have an update on Scottie Scheffler and that situation we had at the PGA Championship last weekend. The cop is being disciplined for being a dum-dum. We'll explain that. And why haven't they dropped the charges yet?
Well, there's some dum-dums there that just don't want to admit they were wrong.
Well, we'll give you some details as to why they probably should get that done right now. And you got the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. All right, I've just watched the new trailer for Beverly Hills Cop Axel F, which is going to be on Netflix July 3rd. That is a movie franchise that's got me hook, line, and sinker, so I'm in. I just hope that Eddie Murphy knows what he's doing, and this movie's good because this is one of those movies where I don't want it to suck like Happy Gilmore 2 because I like the Beverly Hills Cop franchise.
Yeah. Yeah, I do too. I saw the preview earlier, and I'm wary of movie previews that show you a lot of car crashes.
Yeah, that can be a problem.
It's just cover for we don't have any good funny stuff to show you.
Well, the great thing is Paul Reiser's in it. Both Taggart and Roseweed are going to be in it. So it's got the familiar characters. So we'll see how things shake out. Speaking of cops, Godfather, the situation with Scotty Scheffler, who was arrested last week, Detective Gillis has been now disciplined by the department because, according to the report, he did not have his body-worn camera operationally ready as required by our policy. He was performing a law enforcement action as defined in our policy. Further, Section 4.31.7 states members will maintain their BWC in constant state of operational readiness. Detective Gillis should have turned on his body-worn camera but did not. His failure to do so is a violation of the LMPD policy on uniforms and equipment. So he's being disciplined for that. You saw the footage. What's your take on the footage and the arrest?
On the footage we saw, and it's all over social media today, you don't see any abuse of a police officer. You're still trying to figure out what it was that ruined the officer's trousers because you don't see any of that. All you see is the officer breaking through Scheffler's driver's side window with looked like his flashlight, and getting him out of the car and push him against the car and all that. I don't know. There's another statement from Scheffler's attorney out there today, Chad, Steve Romines, and he said, our position remains the same as it was last Friday. I'm not negotiating, as we have no interest in settling. I'm preparing to litigate as needed, and the case will be dismissed or we will go to trial because Scotty did absolutely nothing wrong.
Now, what did Andrew Brandt have to say in regards to Scheffler's attorney's comments?
Yeah, Andrew Brandt, one of my favorite follows on X, former Green Bay Packer executive who's an attorney. His translation of what Scheffler's attorney said is, drop the charges or there will be more lawyers than you can handle.
And they have a lot more resources to work with than the local police department does.
Absolutely. And, the obvious thing is that the further this thing goes out, the more bad publicity for that police department and that city. They could even end up losing this golf tournament, I think. Or they're not this one because they get this one once every 10 years or something. But their regular tour stop could be in jeopardy, I think, if they continue to fight this.
I don't understand why the charges haven't been already dropped.
Yeah.
Just drop it. Just drop it. They're not going to win the case.
Yeah.
And Scheffler is like one of the nicest guys on the planet.
Yeah. Do you want a parade of character witnesses going up talking about how nice he is? And the only footage that exists is what we saw today because your officer didn't turn on his body camera, which probably indicates he probably didn't want anybody to see what he was going to do to the passenger in this car. So you can't win that case.
Yeah, this isn't a sleepy Tiger Woods.
No.
Trying to find his way to the golf course here. This is Scotty Scheffler trying to get to his tee time, trying to get warmed up, doing what he thought he was supposed to do, and having an officer yank him from the car and slam him up against the car. It's ridiculous.
It wasn't speeding or anything like that. It was it just isn't there.
Yeah, they can't win this case. Can't win the case.
No, it's just a total waste of time.
Now, if it was Detective Foley that had pulled over Scheffler, he could win the case. But
There'd
it's
be
not.
some way, somehow, in a plot twist at the end, he would win.
And the last thing a police department wants right now is bad pub, right? Bad press.
Yeah, of course. Why would you want that? It would besmirch your whole department. And supposedly, a lot of other officers are on Scheffler's side, particularly the guys that work the golf tournament, because they don't need to have security people there. They can hire police officers off duty to handle the security there. And those guys are all patting him on the back, saying, "Great to see you. We're on your side." The officer was out of line. Guy was out of line, no doubt.
And unfortunately for that officer, he just happened to yank out the number one golfer in the world.
And probably one of the most loved golfers in the world right now.
Yeah, if I would have seen Scotty in his car and I was in uniform, I would have been like, dude, come this way. And then I would have asked for an autograph.
Exactly. Do you have an extra golf ball in your bag that you could autograph for me? I would love to have that.
Dude, I love your short game, man. Nice work with the putter. You're on fire right now.
Yeah.
Dude, if there's a golfer, like if I saw Bryson, I'd be like, dude, come this way, man. I got you. I would have given him a full police escort to make sure he got to the practice green in time to get warmed up for his round.
Can you imagine, too, if they decided to go ahead with charges, the idea that he could sue them back for false arrest, for besmirching his good name? I mean, he could take a couple million from them easy.
Easy. And, of course, Scheffler's not the type of guy to want to do that.
No.
I think what they want is something very simple. Just drop the charges.
Yeah, let it go.
No need to hassle here. Just drop the charges so we can all get on with our business.
Mm-hmm.
I've got to focus on winning major tournaments, dang it.
I don't need to worry about you clowns.
And really, if you look back at the tournament, I don't know if Scheffler would have won, but he did run out of gas after that incredible round he had on Friday. He just came out flat on Saturday because he was probably coming off the adrenaline rush, and he just didn't have enough. He played well. He just didn't have enough to keep up with Bryson and Xander.
Yeah. Yeah. It's what a circus. I mean, really unnecessary.
The only thing that would have made that whole situation better if it was Lieutenant Frank Drebin that pulled over Scheffler. I could have taken that.
Yeah.
They're really not going to do a remake of Naked Gun, are they? Shaq, are you pulling my chain on that? That seems like a
I think they
far-fetched
announced
idea.
it the day after OJ died that they're rebooting it with Liam Neeson.
Yeah, what was the source on that?
All the Hollywood writers just Google Naked Gun. You'll find everyone reporting on it. And today's news, it looks like wrestler Cody Rhodes is going to be part of the remake.
I can't do it, man.
So hopefully he drops the title soon and he can go away and film his movies.
No Leslie, no Chad. I can't do it. I'm not going to watch Naked Gun without Leslie. That seems ridiculous, Godfather.
Totally. I think I'm on your side on that one.
All right, Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. We're going to keep things rolling. If you want to reach out, 503-248-0620. 503-248-0620. When we come back, we'll get the latest from Charles Barkley on the situation with TNT. All right, it's now 4 o'clock. Chad here. The Mavericks take game one of the Western Conference Finals in Minnesota. Anthony Edwards, just 6 of 16 from the field in 41 minutes, was gassed.
Kyrie got a transition layup from, I think we scored, and he just outran me. I was just exhausted, man. So, yeah, for sure. But we'll be all right.
Game 2 in this series will be Friday at 5:30 on TNT. Tonight, game 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals. 5 o'clock tip ESPN. Pacers at the Celtics. Boston favored by 9.5 after winning game 1 in overtime. The Cavs have fired head coach J.B. Bickerstaff. He won 99 games the past 2 seasons and advanced his team to the Eastern Conference semis this year. Terry Stotts and Frank Vogel have been mentioned in connection with the opening. Mariners blanked by the Yankees 5-zip. Seattle will open a weekend set in Washington tomorrow against the Nationals. Kirby and Gore on the bump. First pitch at 3:45. Oregon and USC scoreless in the 5th. Winner advances to the semis of the Pac-12 tournament tomorrow. Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad continues. We got a pair of Bill Currington tickets to give away next. All right, a couple of pieces of interesting news. First off, New York just passed a law, 51% tax on your sports wagers.
Yeah, I'm just reading a story. This is out of Pro Football Talk, PFT. Sportsbooks print money, and the states that have legalized gambling always get a piece of it. As recently noted by Danny Fund of the Washington Post, some states might follow New York's lead by seeking a massive tax on online revenue. For New York, it's currently 51%. Other states want the same windfall. I bet they do.
You can always count on government to seek more and more money.
Iowa takes only 6.75%. New York and New Hampshire at 51%. The whole idea, I mean, they're not going to make any money because people are going to go back to using their own bookmakers, right?
Maybe, but the convenience of being able to do it from your phone on the app and what you have access to, gamblers are going to gamble. Some people will say, forget that, and they will go get their bookie. But there's still going to be a ton of people placing their wagers and dealing with the 51% tax. That's ridiculous.
It's hard enough to win without giving the state half your money.
Crooks. The politicians are crooks, Godfather. Uncle Sam's coming for some money. That's big-time cash right there. Jeez Louise. The other thing that's wild, we just talked about it in the last segment. Officer Gillis has been relieved of his duties. Fired.
Yeah. PGA Tour just sent out a tweet that he's been let go by the Louisville Police Department.
I would imagine a release will come now in the next couple of minutes that all charges have been dropped against Scotty Scheffler, don't you think?
Yeah, I don't see how the charges could hold if you fired the guy who levied the charges.
Hey, wait a second. Did you fire the cop that made the arrest? Yes. Why? Well, he didn't follow procedures.
Yeah.
But we still think Scheffler's guilty. Yeah, we're going to get the release here real soon. Those charges are going to be dropped. Nice work, Gillis.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Be nice to golfers.
That's crazy, Godfather.
I'm not saying he did right. I think he did wrong. But still, is that a fireable offense? I guess it is. Filing false charges on somebody.
Well, when you're trying to keep a major tournament in your town that brings in revenue, I don't know.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
they're trying to save face right now.
Yeah.
And poor Officer Gillis is getting caught in the wave.
Yeah.
Had that been anybody else not named Scotty Scheffler, Officer Gillis probably still has his job today.
Nobody'd even know about it. If it was you.
Hey, he threw me up against a car. Well, you should have been paying attention, you moron.
He'd be at this little taco stand whining about it.
I don't have any character witnesses either.
No one would care.
Yeah, that sounds like Chad. Dumbass.
Burn, baby, burn. Sorry, Chad.
Yep. Yeah, bad luck, Chad. Nice work, you moron. All right, let's talk a little Charles Barkley right now.
Hold on. Scotty Bethune says that's a spoof account.
What is?
Tour Golf. I didn't know that.
You got spoofed? Oh, come on, Godfather.
Well, look,
you're worse than Gillis.
It's a verified account. Are you sure, Scotty?
Well, we'll have to do a search.
Yeah.
You can't trust anything Scotty says either because he's trying to always get us to look dumb.
He's a spoof account, yeah.
Scotty loves when we make mistakes, and he wants to spoof us. All right, so we'll try and get details on Gillis. See, I rely on you for this stuff, Godfather. If I come to you, you can't go with the spoof account.
Give us something to talk about.
All right, Charles Barkley discussing the latest with the NBA on TNT.
It sucks right now for the people I work with. Man, it just sucks right now. There's nothing I can say, because I'm worried about all the people I work with. Man, I'm 60. I just turned 61. I got enough money. If I don't even look at it as getting fired, Frank. I said, damn, I get to play more golf. But I really feel bad, man, because, we're probably going to lose 200 people going to lose their job at Turner if we lose to NBA.
There you go. There's Charles Barkley, and he continued in regards to Ernie Johnson.
First of all, I know Ernie would not go anywhere else. Ernie's almost 70 years old. I think he's going to retire sooner than later. I don't think he would go to another network. And I don't know what's going to happen with Amazon, ESPN, or if we lose it to NBC. I just don't know. Ernie would not go to another network. I'm damn sure about that. But I would listen before I made any decisions.
All right, so he was on with Dan Patrick today, and the one thing that's been suggested to Charles, in fact, Patrick mentioned it to him, and Barkley's already been working on it. He's got his own production company, much like Peyton Manning does and a lot of these other big-time athletes do. And the whole idea now is Barkley could use his production company to produce and put together Inside the NBA. And since it's not another network like CBS or NBC or whoever, that would be a situation that Ernie Johnson could get involved in. And then what you do is you put together the show, you do the show, and then you could turn around and sell it to NBC or ESPN or one of the networks that's going to be carrying games. It could be Amazon. And that would be the way you could keep the group together and still be able to produce the revenue necessary to make sure the guys get paid. But I think that's actually a pretty darn good idea because if you do it that way and you use your own production company, then they've already had a ton of freedom to do the show the way that they want on TNT, and TNT's done a good job of letting them, kind of do it the way they want to do it.
Yeah.
The reason why the show's so good is because Barkley and Shaq and those guys, they speak openly. They just share their mind. They're very raw and real, which is awesome. So I have hopes that maybe this is something that can materialize because NBC or one of those networks would pick up the show if it were available because it's something that people want to watch. We were talking with Keith Smith yesterday. He watches nothing but basketball all the time. He loves that show later on at night after the game's already over because he can sit down and go through his stuff and unwind to a show that's just fun to listen to.
Yeah, in fact, Chad, if another network bought that show, had the same cast of characters, I think the right move would be to make it an hour-long pregame show so that it would be on in the East at a reasonable time.
Yeah.
I think they'd do much better on the ratings. Show it before the game for the East Coast, then bring the same show back after the game for the West Coast. And you could do that because it's not really a pregame show anyway. They're just goofing around. They're having a good time. It's entertainment more than anything. It's not really journalism, but you could show the same thing after the game and people just eat it up.
How much of a loss, if they do in fact end up losing the NBA, TNT, Turner Sports, if they lose the NBA, and everyone thinks that they're going to because it looks like it's going to be Amazon, NBC, and ESPN that will be the primary carriers of the NBA games. Turner just signed a big deal to get into the college football game.
Yeah.
And that's a big deal. College football is huge. It's massive right now. Do you think that was the right move? Because the way that Charles put it today is that there are people within the company that don't think they need the NBA. And if they're spending big money on college football, that would indicate that they're going to, the money that they had to use on the NBA is probably not going to be used on football. Business-wise, do you think that's the right decision to back out of the NBA and focus on college football?
I don't, because their partnership with the NBA has been so long-lasting. It's been so good for them over the years. it's going to go nowhere but up, I assume. And I think they're losing a lot by doing that. And I'm not sure they're going to ever be known as the place to go for college football. They're going to get some games, probably not the best games. They're going to get the ones that ESPN probably doesn't want to show. Like first-round games in that playoff, there's going to be some real clunkers because they're going to go first seed versus last seed, number 12 seed versus number 1 seed.
Yeah.
That game's not going to be any good.
So what's fascinating about this is the show, if they keep it, Ernie Johnson's got to be involved because it's not the same show without Ernie Johnson. He is the straw that stirs the drink there. They need him.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the other personalities, Charles Barkley, I've heard him on many different formats, podcasts, radio shows, television. I've seen him being interviewed by different people. He works in any format on any network. He's that good. He doesn't need Shaq or Kenny or anybody else.
Exactly.
But the other guys, Shaq and Kenny, they need the entire group.
Yeah.
Barkley can thrive anywhere. So I'm hoping that Barkley sees it as an opportunity to keep the core group together and continue on in some form with his own production company.
If he does, Chad, that's going to be a very unselfish move by him because he'll gamble if he uses his production company. He'll gamble with that a little bit because it's going to cost a lot of money to do that show. You got to pay all these people, and you're going to make money off it. It's just a question of how much. But he in the marketplace is absolutely tried and true, and that's a number. He can get a number that no one else in that business can get. What, $25 million a year, something like that, to come on board, be a part of your pre and post, or just comment. Like CBS signs him, and he'd do occasional commentary on 60 Minutes, for crying out loud.
There's no question. He's one of those few guys. We were talking about, analysts, the ones that we like or don't like, or how much of an impact they have on you when you're watching a game. Charles is one of the few guys where I will go out of my way to listen to him or watch him.
Yeah, for sure.
Either for most of the time, I just want to laugh, and I know he's going to make me laugh. But I like his insight on certain situations that go down on the court, his thoughts on a particular player. Like, I'll go out of my way to listen to Charles. And you've known him for a long time. He was one of your favorite guys to cover in the league because he was always good to you.
Yeah.
A great quote.
He has a great heart, and that's what I appreciate about what he's saying about this show. He's trying to take care of the crew. He's not worried about taking care of Ernie and Kenny and Shaq and those guys. They're all rich. He's trying to take care of those guys that are with him every night, making that show look good on TV, and he appreciates that. He's trying to make sure they're taken care of.
Well, he was saying that he's been there at TNT now for like 24 years.
Yeah.
So he goes, my entire crew that I've worked with that entire time, the production crew, I know their families. I know their children. I knew them when they were born, and now they're graduating college. I mean, and he's around them all the time. So he feels desperately for them because those are the people who get impacted the most. Kenny Smith, Shaq, Charles,
they're gonna be
Ernie Johnson, they're going to be just fine because they've got plenty of money. But these other families that rely on that work, they're the ones who are going to be adversely impacted by it. And it's nice to know that Barkley is well aware of that.
Yeah, I respect that.
Yeah.
A lot.
Because he's a big-time star. He doesn't have to pay mind to anything.
No. And he's going to be fine, too. He's going to be just fine.
Well, he's got, he's going to get paid. He's got to gamble. He likes to gamble. He needs money to gamble.
He likes to play golf a lot, too, now.
He told Patrick, he said, hey, if you want me to buy you dinner, make sure we get this done now because once I don't have a job, I ain't paying for no dinner. Like somehow he's going to be scrapping for change or something. All right, we'll keep things rolling here on the show. When we come back, Rudy Gobert's impact on the Timberwolves might be a little bit better than what you thought. And the whole idea that he can't be utilized in the postseason might be overblown, too.
Yeah.
We're going to get to that, and then Dwight will share his thoughts on Game 2. What adjustments we might see in that Pacers-Celtics game tonight at TD Garden. You got the Rip City Drive.
terrible offense down the stretch. Bad shots, turnovers, no composure, and thought for the same at the end of the first half. We haven't really closed quarters very well, closed halves very well over the last handful of games. It cost us one game in the Denver series. And it certainly had an impact on this game tonight too. So we got to be better in clutch moments. As soon as Rudy left the court, they just drove. We were not very good on the ball. We were not very good at the rim. We were soft there. So,
all right, there's Timberwolves head coach Chris Finch after the Mavericks Game 1 victory in Minnesota. Hey, Godfather, you sent me a report after the game focusing in on the play of Rudy Gobert. He played 38 minutes in the game last night. In the 10 minutes that Gobert was not on the floor, the Timberwolves were minus 13.
Yeah. That surprises a lot of people, I'm sure.
It really does, because I've even bought into this to some degree over the last couple of years with Rudy Gobert, is that during the regular season, he's terrific. He can rebound. He's a great shot blocker, rim protector, defensive player. He causes havoc and changes shots. But the thought process on him has always been that come postseason time, when coaches and coaching staffs have, days and days to prepare and put together a game plan, what they do is they try to draw him away from the basket, put him in pick and roll situations or defending on the perimeter where he is much less effective, and therefore he becomes kind of a problem, because if you keep him on the floor, they're going to draw him away from the basket and boom, they can't be productive. What we're seeing now with Minnesota is that because they have so much size, they can use their bigs in a variety of different ways. But I think it's pretty clear that it's easy to use Rudy as a punching bag sometimes for shortcomings. But when he's on the floor, he is a difference maker. And we saw it last night. He came back on after a very short rest because Minnesota allowed a big Dallas run in the fourth quarter. They put Gobert back on the floor, and all of a sudden, those pathways for Luka and Kyrie were much more difficult to find. What are you seeing with Gobert when he's on the floor?
Well, he's still such a problem around the basket that it does change the game. And I think people don't notice it because he isn't challenged as often as he is in the regular season. The regular season, you're willing to take the gamble. You can get something through him, over him, on the side of him, whatever. In the playoffs, you can't, so you don't try. So his block shot totals will often drop in the playoffs
because you're not going to challenge him.
Yeah, he's not being challenged. He doesn't have shots to block. But that's because people are just not going near him. And you get no credit for that statistically when people won't come up on you. And I thought Minnesota, and we've seen it more during the regular season than in the playoffs, they used him offensively more than anybody else has. He's great on the lobs, and they're using him. Anthony Edwards has been really good at throwing him lobs. He's the best finisher on lobs ever because he gets up higher. There's nothing you can do to contest those lobs except foul him, grab him or something, because he's great on them. And I think he could be a better rebounder if he focused on that. But, he's polarizing because he's big. And as Will Chamberlain used to say, nobody roots for Goliath. They root for David, but they don't root for Goliath. And that's the thing. People naturally don't want to see a guy that big succeed. They like people normal-sized. So he has to fight that all the time. And he's a foreign player. He's done goofy things in his time. This is a guy that handled all those cell phones when COVID first broke out, and he made a big joke about that. And half the media ended up getting COVID from him handling all those phones. But, he's just got a lot of things against him. But he is effective, and he does keep people out of the paint. And I expect, though, to see Dallas putting him in more pick and rolls because that's where he struggles. When you bring him out to the free throw line or the top of the key, put him in a pick and roll, then that forces him to move, and it's a problem.
That's when he's least effective.
Yeah, there's another guy too, Chad. Can you imagine if zone defense was completely legal? I mean, it's legal, but you still can't be in the key defensively for more than 3 seconds.
Yeah.
What if he could just camp in there?
It'd be amazing.
You got no chance. That's why they have the rule. Guys like him. I mean, Wemby standing down there under the basket like that, that's better than a goalie in hockey because he'd block more shots than a hockey goalie does.
All right, you got to help me understand something. Barkley said in regards to the Minnesota bigs that they don't play big. And it was really talking about Karl Anthony Towns spending a lot of time out in the perimeter, jacking up three-pointers. And last night, Towns put up 9 threes. He was 2 of 9 from downtown, and Cat's a big dude. The most striking advantage for Dallas was a 62, I think it was 62-28 or 62-38 advantage in the paint. Now, how in the world can Minnesota have that type of deficit in the paint when they got Naz Reid, Gobert, and Karl Anthony Towns? What's up with that?
Well, first of all, old-time NBA players are so predictable. Shaq and Charles are the same way. Every time they see a big guy hoist up a three, get down on the post where you belong. You don't belong shooting threes. Well, the game has changed, and you have to recognize that. I don't hear anybody, including Charles or Shaq, telling Miles Turner to get down in the post when he hits, 5 out of 7 or 7 out of 9 threes. Karl Anthony Towns can make threes, and he had a bad shooting night where he didn't make them. But he will make threes. That's part of his game, and part of what has made him valuable is taking other bigs outside and shooting threes over them, taking them away from the board. So, yeah, I get it. And you'd like to see him more active inside. I don't think his footwork at the post is as good as it should be. I'm not sure he's real good down there. But his mid-range game and his three-point shooting game are more of what he does. And you live with that.
I do like those lob passes to Rudy, though.
Oh,
He's
man.
really good at catching with one hand and throwing it down.
Oh, some of them are amazing.
That's why I couldn't believe on the lob pass late where Luka showed a little bit of hop, getting up and deflecting the pass to be able to get a defensive stop. It's nice when you see that type of work from Luka down there because, Rudy in that position, they do a good job of throwing lobs, and he catches it with one hand and throws it down.
And that was a good job by Luka, but the problem was, and you can always say this, the lob just wasn't high enough.
Yeah.
I think it's hard to throw a lob that high. You're just not used to throwing one to the top of the backboard. He can get up there,
I don't know if there's a lob too high for Gobert.
No, well, it would be.
There's a couple times where I've seen passes, I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And he just rises up with one hand, grabs it because his hands are massive.
Yeah.
And he just throws it down with authority. I love seeing that type of stuff.
Yeah, and you think, every time I see it, I think, you got to do more of that. It's unstoppable. And I realize it's hard to set that up. It's hard to get him in the right spot. It's hard to do the pass. But it's an absolute infallible play. It just can't be stopped.
All right. Another issue is old man booty that you see at the local athletic club or at the YMCA.
What?
I've played against guys like, that got the dad bods, that got some thickness to them, right? Well, Luka's got some thickness. He's not exactly the most svelte basketball player.
Mm-hmm.
And as effective as Jaden McDaniels was in the series against Denver with his length, he's got super long arms, and he was putting a lot of pressure on Jamal Murray. Well, what we saw last night was his size or his slender build. He had some issues with Luka when Luka wanted to back him down.
Yeah, Luka just bumped him out of the way. It's child's play for him. He's just playing with toys.
Luka's got some junk in the trunk, man. He's not afraid to use it.
Yeah, and he's so much like Jokic. They come from pretty much the same part of the world, and they play the same. They don't look like they can do what they do. And they both are clever. They get to the basket. They make shots. They make great passes. They're fundamentally sound. And they both can move you out of there. And they don't look like Charles Atlas, but they can still move you out of there.
It reminds me so much of Larry Bird. And Bird's my favorite of all time. But Bird was the same way. He didn't have great athleticism, but he understood the angles.
Yeah.
He understood how to use ball fakes, and he could shoot the fadeaway over the top of the defense, and he would change his arch when he had to. And Luka was doing that last night. There were a couple of shots that he made where he had to adjust on the fly based on the defense that was on him because he can't sky over the top of someone. But the touch, understanding the angles, and being able to score in a variety of different ways, it's truly impressive.
Yeah, it's also connected to good footwork. You have to have good footwork to put yourself in position to do that. Best I've ever seen was Steve Johnson, who played center for the Blazers and center at Oregon State. And they used to say he's got the biggest caboose in the league. And he used his big butt to get position, and there was not a thing in the world you could do about it.
No, I hate it.
And he had great footwork. He had the drop step. He had all the stuff you need. He got whatever shots he wanted in the post and became an all-star.
Amazing. So is the best way to play Luka to mix it up and throw different guys at him? Like if McDaniels is not going to have enough girth to get the job done, do you throw somebody else? How would you handle that?
Yeah, I think you are going to have to change. And I think you got to get more bulk on him. And I don't know if that means Edwards has to play him because Edwards is stronger and probably got a better base than McDaniels does. So you might try that. But you might zone him a little bit too. They've messed with that a little bit, but haven't shown a lot of it. I would consider that too.
All right. Game 2, Eastern Conference Finals tonight. It's going to tip off coming up at 5 there at TD Garden in Boston. First off, do you think the Pacers might suffer any psychological setback after having game 1 and then blowing game 1? They blew the game.
Yeah, they did. I don't think they will, Chad, but there are people saying that, and it's certainly something to watch for early in the game. Are they dispirited because of the way they lost that game? Are they down about it? They haven't shown a propensity to get down after big losses, and they've lost some big games and by big margins. So I don't expect that to happen to them, but I also don't expect them to have as good a chance to win a game as they had in game 1. That was a great chance to win a game, and they didn't do it. And that would bother me a little bit that I let that one go.
Yeah, what if Boston comes back and plays a much better game? As you pointed out, they've got more talent, a lot more talent. And if they play up to their capabilities in that building, they'll win the game.
Yeah, and usually in the playoffs this year, when they've won games, they've won by big margins.
Yeah.
They've blown people away on the road and at home. Now, game 2 at home has been a problem for them, so we'll see.
I mean, normally with most teams who are really good, you would expect them to bounce back and play a much cleaner game and be more effective. Mm-hmm. But with the Celtics, you just don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're going to get from Missoula, Montana, their head coach. You don't know about the players.
Yeah.
Are they going to be disinterested? Like, I don't know. Their level of engagement, it's up and down, which is bizarre to me.
Yeah, and what you hear from Boston people, even the ones who are big Boston fans, is the one problem that Missoula has is adjusting. Like, he's not the guy that'll go in at halftime and come out in the second half with a whole different scheme, different way of attacking you or whatever. They tend to stay with what they do. And so will he make a big adjustment between games 1 and 2? I think it's doubtful. That's the thing. I question whether they'll be able to keep up with the adjustments that Rick Carlisle's going to make.
All right. T.J. McConnell, you think they should get him more time on the floor? I thought he should have been in late to help with that inbound pass before the turnover.
Absolutely. You're right, Chad. And you don't normally like little guys inbounding the ball because they'll put a big on him and it's hard to get the ball over or around him. But still, you made the point with me and you're right. He's the best passer they got. Why wouldn't you want your best passer inbounding a pass that important?
Yeah, because all he has to do is get it inbounds to one of his players.
Yeah.
Not a pass thrown backwards towards the Celtics hoop that nearly resulted in a bucket.
Yeah. You know, and the other thing, he should be on the floor more anyway.
He can
because
shoot.
He brings tempo with him. He brings energy with him. He brings a lot of little things that other players don't have.
He played
he's
well.
Been so good. He's been really good.
He played well in the New York series, too.
Yeah,
and
real
even
good.
Was willing to take on the challenge of trying to slow down Jalen Brunson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I respect that type of work. So you want that. Get McConnell on the floor. Get him some more minutes.
Yeah.
And that's really the Pacers' MO. We're going to hit you with a bunch of different guys. We're not just about one player.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's their strength. They don't have a superstar. It's a weakness and a strength. They have a lot of guys who can play, and that is a strength in the playoffs.
Pascal Siakam. They've got Miles Turner, who's played really well.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they just got a group of guys that seem to play really well. Credit to Rick Carlisle for getting those guys to play as one and to share the ball.
Yeah.
It works. And Halliburton, who he played okay in game 1. You're right, he may not be 100%.
Yeah. He's not the same player he was at the start of the year. He's not.
What's up with his shot? Why is it so janky? How can you get to that level and have a jacked up shot? I don't understand.
It's incredible, isn't it?
It's hideous.
Well, I've always been told you can have bad form, but if you practice it enough, you can get good with it.
But the problem is with some of those guys that have the janky form, and we saw those with Lonzo Ball when he came in the NBA.
Ooh.
The problem is when you get the hitch and you're giddy up, it can prevent you from being able to get straight up for the shot in certain situations based on tight defense, right? Because you need that extra, split second to get in a position to shoot. It's just weird.
Lonzo Ball was one of the worst I've seen coming into the league.
You would think someone might try to correct that along the way.
Yeah.
Or maybe they did, and they're like, forget it, man. Just go back to your old ways.
Well, the Ball family doesn't look like they listen to a lot of people.
No.
They don't take advice well.
And they don't listen to 11-year-olds who want autographs, so instead they run over their feet.
They run over their feet, yes.
I still can't get over that one. LaMelo ran over an 11-year-old's foot, according to the report, causing it to break. And our man Colin Amos said, yeah, you should probably just settle that one right away.
Yeah.
Settle. You don't want that to be in the news or the headlines for too long.
Write the big check before it gets to be a big problem.
Hey, LaMelo, can I get your autograph? No. And just peel out on his foot. Isn't that ridiculous? That's an all-timer.
Yeah. I can't wait to hear his excuse for that one.
I would have thought LeVar would have been the first to run over an 11-year-old's foot. Not LaMelo.
Yeah. What a career he's had. He hardly ever plays. He's hurt all the time.
Injuries.
Just like his brother. They're both hurt all the time. Probably those janky shoes that the old man invented.
There's certain things in life I'm not going to try and recreate, right? Like Nike's good enough for me.
Yeah, right. You don't need to go off in your basement and try to design something better.
No, like there are just certain things like why would you try to recreate that? You think you're going to come up with better shoes than what Nike's got?
Yeah.
Why not just go Jordans? I mean, Jordan's won that category. Just go with the Jays.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to come up with your own shoe company that's going to be better than that? Are you kidding me? Some of that stuff's just crazy to me.
Looney Tunes.
I mean, think about some of your best brands. You're going to really top that?
Yeah, I mean, Adidas has been making shoes for a long time,
Like
they're pretty good.
I'm not going to go into the laundry pod business to try and outdo Tide. They seem to got that one down,
Yeah.
All right, we'll keep things rolling here on the show. Dwight and Chad with you. Hope you're enjoying your Thursday. Is it cold in here?
Always.
Hey, Shaq, are you freezing your booty off in there or what? What's the temperature?
Yeah, but it was really hot a few hours ago.
All right, we had another head coach fired. I'm sure he was the solely responsible for the team's failures or shortcomings, Godfather.
Yeah.
And a couple of names that being associated with the Cleveland job. We'll get to that. Now, we're going to talk Dak Prescott. Apparently, he does not play football for the money.
Oh, no, Chad. Just for the fun. Plays for fun.
For a guy that doesn't play for the money, he has made a lot of money.
Yes.
All right, we'll keep things rolling. Rip City Drive, Dwight and Chad. We'll come back and talk about the opening in Cleveland and a familiar name being associated with the job. Well, I'm glad Scotty Bethune was there to assist you because I've done multiple searches, and I think you may have gotten spoofed by that stupid account.
Yeah, you would have too. If I would have sent that to you, you would have fallen for it too.
Well, we don't know that. So you got spoofed today, so don't try to, defer. It's okay. You got caught.
Hey, I called it to your attention. I admitted it right off the bat.
I get hammered by ball sack all the time, so it happens. I think it's funny. I like it when people get spoofed, and you're like, wait a second, what? And then I got spoofed once by Barry McConaughey. That's how I have to pronounce the name because it's inappropriate. But, yeah, I've been spoofed a couple of times. It happens, Godfather. Don't worry about it. Oh, yeah. You just mentioned this to me. You got a notification. I don't know from where, but it's amazing if it's true. Andre the Giant once ripped a – is this Princess Bride or what movie is this?
It was on the set of Princess Bride, which she had a big role in.
All right, so Princess Bride. He ripped out a 16-second fart.
Yes, apparently it brought the production to a standstill, and then nobody said anything. It got real quiet. And director Rob Reiner, you remember Rob Reiner, he said, "Are you okay, Andre?" And which Andre replied, "I am now, boss."
That's incredible. I do not know what the record is, my personal record is for the length of fart that's come out.
You don't measure them out, huh?
I've never measured it in terms of time. I've had a couple of doozies, but not 16 seconds.
Yeah.
That's got to be approaching the world record.
I think double figures would be something to be proud of.
Do you think that's actually kept in the Guinness Book of World Records?
No, I don't. No, I don't think so.
That's amazing. Didn't you tell me the other day you met Andre the Giant?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, one time Don Owen, the late great promoter, brought him down to the Oregon Journal sports department. He brought Andre in because they had him in town, and of course Don's looking for some publicity. So, yeah, ridiculously large man.
How cool was he? Was he nice?
Oh, he's great. Everybody says he's the greatest guy in the world.
But how big is he in person, though?
He's not as tall. They always said he was like 7'4", something like that. He's about 6'10". He was about 6'10", but very large, wide, big, his fingers, his hands, all of that. They said, and I'm not sure, but they said he could pass a quarter through his ring. If he had a ring and took it off, you could put a quarter through there.
That's massive.
Yeah. Known for how much he ate, too. Huge, intake of things like beer and steaks. And
you got to listen to this. I'm going to read this, and you're not going to believe it, but I'm going to read it to you anyways.
All right.
I love the internet for a variety of different reasons. Andre Giant's got a lot of work to do. According to the Guinness Book of World Records, Bernard Clemens of London, UK, holds the record for the longest fart at 2 minutes and 42 seconds in 1977. Paul Hunn of Flint, Michigan, also holds a record for a fart that lasted 2 minutes and 42 seconds in 1972, but it reached 118.1 decibels, which is louder than a chainsaw.
No.
118.1 decibels, which is louder than a chainsaw rock concert. All right, there you go. Herkimer Short of Ripley, New York, holds the record for the loudest fart at 113 decibels in 1972.
I can't. Who was standing there with a decibel meter? Let's run the test on that one.
There you go.
God, that's like
2
jet
minutes
engine.
and 42 seconds.
Wow.
That's incredible.
You wouldn't want to be in the same room when he did that.
I read a story once, and it was actually a news report that I think there was some, how do I say this kindly, a very obese individual who was going through the process of trying to lose weight. So he changed his diet significantly, and I think he was living in the house he was living was like downstairs in like a basement or something like that. Not a well ventilated area, right?
Yeah.
Well, because of the changes in his diet, trying to lose weight, it created some disturbances within his body function, and he killed himself by farting at night through gases.
Through the fumes?
Yeah. Well,
So it's better to keep it inside you than to keep it outside you.
No, I don't believe that. No. But if you're that big and you're putting out that much, maybe he was letting off 2-minute and 42-second farts all night. But can you imagine that?
No.
Excuse me, how'd your son die? Well, I really don't want to talk about that right now.
Gas poisoning.
That's what it was. It was poisoning. Because it wasn't the ventilation system, the air movement. It's kind of like this studio here. There's no air movement in here.
Yeah, I'm well aware of that. Yeah.
It's awful.
Thank you. Yeah.
I don't like radio studios for that reason because most of them are, this one's a little bit better, but I've had some that are kind of, holed up into the middle part of the building and, they're soundproof and you got the doors and
no ventilation.
No ventilation. And so because of that, you don't get a lot of air movement. So it's just weird. It would seem to me like a place for germs to float around. That's why we always encourage people in this biz, like if you're sick, you're not doing anyone any favors, just stay home.
Yeah.
Now, don't bring your germs in here. We don't need that. There you go. Do you think you could top 2 minutes and 42 seconds?
I think it's time. I think we've spent enough time on this highbrow conversation.
2 minutes and 42 seconds. You got to admit, that's amazing. And we thought that Andre the Giant was amazing at 16 seconds.
Yeah. He brought production of a movie to a complete halt.
And knowing Reiner the way I do, he probably thought it was pretty funny, too.
I bet it was loud, though. It must have been loud.
All right, J.B. Bickerstaff, fired by the Cavs.
Yeah.
He won 99 games over the last 2 seasons. They got to the Eastern Conference semis this year and lost to the Celtics, the number 1 seed in the conference.
Yeah, who they couldn't beat. They didn't have the players to beat them. They also were without Jared Allen. Last 2 games, Donovan Mitchell didn't play.
What do you expect?
Exactly. This is a failure by the front office, and the coach has to wear that. He's the scapegoat.
And not just the front office, but the players. I'm so sick and tired of players in the NBA never taking accountability for their shortcomings.
Yeah.
It happens all the time. It's not my fault.
They're probably happy to get him fired, most of them. Usually when a coach gets fired, the players have had something to do with it.
Oh, 100%. The 2 names being connected, Frank Vogel and Terry Stotts. Is that agent speak right there, trying to push their clients' names out there?
Yeah, I think so. I've seen a couple other names.
Who wants to take a job in Cleveland, by the way?
Yeah, no kidding.
If the Cavs offer me the job right now for the head coaching job in Cleveland, I'm out.
Yeah. Sorry, we're going to have to postpone tonight's game because the lake is on fire.
Cleveland, what a disaster they are. As Miranda would say, if God were to perform an enema, he would start in Cleveland. Because I referred to it as the armpit, and she corrected me on that.
Yeah.
And I stand corrected. All right, hope you enjoyed that segment.
Yeah.
That's what we're here for, Godfather.
We hope that because that's not going to be in our Hall of Fame. Let's put it that way.
Can you imagine the size of a guy like Andre the Giant with his stomach's grumbling? I would run for the hills. I'm out, man. See ya. Nice meeting you, Andre. Later, bro.
Jeez.
You feel better now? I'm good, boss.
Yeah, I'm good, boss.
Oh, my gosh. All right, when we come back, well, did we ever give away the Billy Currington tickets? Have we done that, Shaq? All right, we're going to do that when we come back. Billy Currington, we got a pair for the Clark County Fair August 2nd. We'll give those away next. All right, coming up in just a few minutes, Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals on ESPN. Pacers at the Celtics. Boston favored by 9.5 after winning Game 1 in overtime. Kristaps Porzingis targeting Game 4 to make his return. The Cleveland Cavaliers have fired head coach J.B. Bickerstaff. He won 99 games the past 2 seasons and advanced his team to the Eastern Conference semis this year, losing to the Celtics. Terry Stotts and Frank Vogel have been mentioned in connection with the opening. Mariners shut out by the Yankees 5-0. They open a weekend set in Washington tomorrow against the Nationals. Kirby and Gore's the pitching matchup. That first pitch at 3:45. More of the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad coming at you right now. We have a Bo Nix update, but first we're going to give away a pair of tickets to see Billy Currington live in concert at the Clark County Fairgrounds August 2nd. It includes your fair admission. All right, Billy Currington is going to be live in concert at the Clark County Fairgrounds August 2nd. Yeah, give it to me, Shacker. A little Billy Currington for you. The tickets include fair admission. So if you'd like to see Billy Currington live in concert, we'll take caller 3 right now, 503-248-0620. 503-248-0620. Call now. Caller 3 will get a pair of tickets, including fair admission at the Clark County Fairgrounds coming up on August 2nd. 503-248-0620. 503-248-0620. Fire away right now. Now, do you listen to any country music at all, Godfather? Or are you out completely on country?
I don't seek it out. Accidentally, I get caught listening to it once in a while, but
on YouTube, probably.
Yeah, YouTube or just random stuff that people are playing when I'm trying not to listen.
Does your wife listen to country music?
Yeah, she likes a little bit of country. Yeah, and we watch American Idol, and it pops up on Idol quite often. Actually.
Interesting.
It's much more popular in the country right now than I would have ever imagined it would be. The young people seem to really like it.
It's hard for me to imagine Nancy bump into some country music.
Well, she has very wide musical tastes.
All right, it's time. We got another one set for you. Let's get to our Bo Nix update. I yelled because I knew you would understand what I was doing. All right, Godfather, the Broncos have just finished up a week of OTAs.
Yeah.
And that means we get a chance to take a listen to the latest from Sean Payton on his quarterbacks. And what they've done is they're rotating the guys. They've got Jarrett Stidham will go out and run a series, and then they'll put in, Zach Wilson. They'll put Bo Nix in. So they're getting a chance to look at all of their guys. And Bo Nix is new, and obviously Zach Wilson coming over from the Jets, new to the system as well.
They all get to go with the ones.
Yeah.
In their own time.
Yeah, because you want to see what they can do in those type of situations. But let's take a listen to Sean Payton on a variety of different topics with the quarterbacks and with the OTAs.
We tried to, and this is important for everyone, we try to split up all the reps. So all right, let's go, guys. There's going to be a time where you read into the reps. I don't think it's early in OTAs.
Sean, it's probably been a while since you had a true, open quarterback competition. I guess, how do you approach, that it could be anybody's job to win?
Yeah, I mean, we had it in New Orleans after Drew left with
Andy.
It was with Teddy and Taysom. Look, we go by what we see. We try to get them as many reps as possible. We're rotating all of them right now. So Tuesday, Stiddy ran with the ones, and then Zach, and then Bo, and we'll keep doing that right now.
What are your impressions of Zach Wilson first time you've seen him on the field?
Good. It's kind of the orphan group. All of them they're all orphan dogs. They've come from somewhere, but they're doing good, and it's a good room.
Well, can you just kind of elaborate what you saw on Zach versus what you've seen on the film all these years?
Yeah, good question. I like his experience. You could tell he's played, and I feel like he's got very live arm strength. And he's picking up the offense pretty quickly.
Going from rookie minicamp to now this with the veterans, how have you seen Bo pick up the offense and be around the rest of the team?
Good. He's farther along than most would be. We're talking about a player who's played 61 games. He's extremely smart. He's picked it up very quickly.
With your three quarterbacks, obviously they're all starting from a little bit of a different spot. So are you looking for, when you look for progress with them, are you looking for the same things out of each of them, or does progress look different for each of those guys?
Yeah, good question. They come from different systems. One's coming from college, one's coming from 2 or 3 NFL systems, and the other is coming from one system. They're all in a race to learn this system. And I would say, you guys watch the practice. Man, they're doing well.
Eddie Manning was saying some interesting stuff last night about whether to play rookie quarterbacks. And he talked about, those different schools. Mahomes had his first year. Manning, even though he threw 28 interceptions and went 3-13, he said that was invaluable. He said Eli Manning got way more out of the 6 games he played as a rookie than the 10 he did. Now, what's your philosophy on playing rookie quarterbacks?
Well, I think some of it is a byproduct of what you have in the building. If you have a starter in the building, then that's the path you go. And then sometimes you don't have that luxury, and then that's the path you go. A lot of it's dependent on the quarterback, his mental makeup. So I think it just varies. When you look at Love that went to Green Bay behind, and then Rodgers who went to Green Bay behind, there's a little bit of a luxury there. But it's really dependent on the roster.
All right, Godfather, if I'm hearing Sean Payton correctly, he was talking about Jordan Love being behind Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Rodgers being behind Brett Favre. If you're fortunate enough to have that type of situation, you go with the established veteran, and then you keep your rookie on the bench to give him time to sit, listen, learn, and absorb as much as possible. He also said that it depends on the mental makeup of the player. Well, we know that Bo Nix, his mental makeup is advanced compared to a lot of youngsters who come into the NFL. So that's going to work well for him. He also talked about the roster in general, and the Broncos do have one of the better offensive lines in the league. They've got a couple of receivers who are experienced, who could be helpful for a young quarterback, and they also have a slew of running backs who can run the football. It would seem to me that Bo Nix, being the prized possession, the draft pick in the first round, if his play matches the mental makeup and he continues to develop and progress as they move along through camp, that he'll have every opportunity to win that starting job.
Yeah, well, I think he kind of opened the door when he said, if you have a starter in the building, that's the way you go. Well, they don't have a starter in the building.
No, Jared Stidham's not that guy, and Zach Wilson is not that guy.
They can't go that way. So you go another way.
In fact, you could almost make the argument that the 2 quarterbacks they have next to Bo are 2 guys who really won't ultimately challenge him.
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to. You've set up a room that's good because it's got some guys who have experience that can help Bo out, but these aren't guys who are going to pressure Bo. These aren't guys who are going to take the field in camp, in preseason, and show that they're head and shoulders above Bo. Like, that's not going to happen.
Well, there seems to be no doubt. He just has to show he can handle it.
Yeah. That's really what it comes down to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you like the idea of allowing all 3 of those quarterbacks, assuming it's a legitimate competition right now, to get their chance to run with the ones?
Yeah, I do. Because eventually, if somebody gets hurt, they're going to have to be with the ones anyway. But the one thing I don't like is saying it's a competition when people really know it's not. I don't think that's good for players who, yeah, you're in competition, but it's a sham, and they know it's a sham. So I think you have to be real careful when you say that. And I think
and Peyton hasn't said that.
No, he hasn't. He hasn't. And within the room, I think it'll become obvious to everyone before it becomes obvious to the public what's going to happen.
Well, let's see here. What do you got in the room now? So these are guys that could be helpful to Bo, I would think. Jared Stidham's been around for a while, and he's got experience in different systems. Zach Wilson, while we all make fun of him because of his struggles with the Jets, like, having a guy that's gone through some difficulty, that might be good for a young guy like Bo.
If he's willing to help, those guys could undermine you a little bit too. And that would be my only thing. Like with Wilson, I'm sure at this point he figures, I thought I was going to come here and start, and I didn't think they were going to take quarterback in the first round, and I think I can start in this league. Everybody believes that, whether it's true or not. So you wonder if he'll be a good soldier sitting on the bench behind a rookie.
My guess is Peyton will let him be known, like, look, you're hanging on to a job in the league by a string.
Yeah.
So no funny business, or we'll just ship you out.
Yeah.
They didn't pay anything for him. They're only paying $2.75 million. So they can get rid of him tomorrow if he were to become a problem.
Mm-hmm.
They have no investment in him whatsoever. They brought him in because you got first-round talent at a bargain basement price of $2.75 million that you're splitting down the middle with the Jets.
And you simply have to have another quarterback.
You simply have to have another quarterback. At least they got a young, cheap quarterback who has a lot of experience playing mini games. So if you need him to go in, if he ends up being the backup, which I think he will, then that's good. A cheap backup with experience. That's not a bad thing.
And he's good enough, Chad. I think if Bo goes down with an ankle sprain or something for a couple of games, he might be able to get you through that.
I still think how this is going to play out. If I had my crystal ball in front of me, Bo Nix will win the starting job, barring some type of unforeseen disaster, or Bo just underperforms dramatically, which I don't think is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Bo gets the starting job, and then Zach Wilson, because of his cost, will be your backup. Stidham, that they signed last year, is getting like $5 million per year. He is a valuable commodity to another team out there that needs a backup. So my thought is, as this whole process plays out, Bo's your starter. Zach Wilson will back up because he's cheap, and then they'll turn around before the start of the season and deal Stidham to a team that needs a quarterback to back up and someone that can be trusted to back up, which Stidham can be, and then you move him for a draft pick so you get more draft capital. That would be my guess is how this plays out, because they're not going to keep all three guys on the roster.
Mm-hmm.
You'll probably have Bo, Zach, and then your emergency quarterback that would probably be on the practice squad.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That'd be my guess.
Yeah, and I think they'll really pick their spots with Bo in the exhibition season. Try to put him in situations where he'll look good, have some success.
Yeah.
You don't want him getting off to a real bad start.
No, what I would do is I would, just give him bits and pieces to begin with.
Yeah.
And then you can slowly start to ramp it up. And the great thing about Bo is that he'll do whatever the coaches ask him to do. He's not going to try and force it. So that's a good thing. And that's what Sean Payton is there for. It's like, put your quarterback in a position to succeed.
Yeah.
And I think that Sean Payton can do that. All right, we'll keep things rolling here on the show. We always enjoy giving you some Bo Nix updates. I know I certainly do. Telephone number 503-248-0620. More football when we come back. Dak Prescott says it's not about the money. I think you know what that means. And Lamar Jackson trying to lose a little bit of weight. What's up with that? You got the Rip City Drive. Boy, Shacker pulling out the Bobby Brown.
Nice.
I'm down with Bobby. Nice work, Shaq. All right, so we got our tickets out for Billy Currington. Nice work, Shaq. Hope you enjoy the concert coming up on August 2nd. We got a lot of goodies to give away next week, and we will do that. All right, we've got some NFL we want to get to here. Lamar Jackson we'll get to in just a moment. Apparently, he wants to drop a little bit of weight. That's surprising to me.
Yeah.
I guess he wants to get quicker. It's like, you're already fast enough, brah.
Yeah, I think, and what makes him pretty good is he's also big enough to break tackles and run over people.
He's an Adonis. I absolutely love Lamar Jackson, so we'll get to him in just a moment. But first things first, Dak Prescott, who is looking for a new contract. And he was asked about the business side of things after OTAs, after practice, and here's what he had to say. Take a listen to this beauty.
Business is business. I'll leave it where it gets handled. Right now it's about being my best for this team right now in this moment. OTAs helping these guys out and just focused on that. And I know my business will take care of itself, and so been in it before, experienced, and just controlling what I can right now.
Why have you been able to be so patient when it comes to the business?
I don't play for money. Never have, never cared for it, to be honest with you. Yeah, would give it up just to play this game. So I allow that to the business people to say what it's worth, what they're supposed to give a quarterback of my play. A person of my play, leader of my play, I guess you can say. And for me, it's about, as I said, control. I can control and handle that part, and the rest will take care of itself.
All right, there's Dak Prescott. There's one simple rule in life. Anytime an athlete says it's not about the money, that means it's about the money.
Of course.
So, hey, Jerry, you better get ready to pay up because Dak Prescott's going to be looking for maximum value. And for a guy that doesn't play for money and never has, doesn't even care about the money.
No, he doesn't even care about it.
He doesn't even care. It's just money. What do I care?
Hey, I could play without it.
In fact, he said he would give it up right now just to play the game.
Just to play for free.
Well, according to Spotrac, his career earnings for a guy that doesn't play for the money and would give it up tomorrow, he has earned in his contracts from the Dallas Cowboys $162.3 million.
Well, see, there you have it. He could play for free now. He's got enough in the bank never to have to worry.
Oh, my goodness.
Wow.
Look, I love Dak. I think he's a cool guy. I think he's a good leader. But that's just hogwash right there.
No, and nobody, I mean, fans aren't buying that. I mean, they're not going to believe that. It makes you look bad. Because he's like, if he didn't care, the contract would be done by now.
Yeah.
Obviously, his side is pushing back in some negotiations.
What he's doing that's smart is he's playing the game publicly the right way. Hey, look, business is business. It'll take care of itself. I don't play for money. But you let your agent do all the dirty deals behind the scenes.
Yeah.
The Cowboys screwed up and have put themselves in a position where they're going to have to pay up. And Dak knows that. And the Cowboys are going to have to make a choice. Either we pay him big money and lock ourselves into Dak, or we face the future, the very near future of life without Dak.
Yeah, because they can no longer franchise him, right?
He will be a free man after this year if they don't get a deal done.
Yeah.
So there you go. And for the Cowboys, I mean, Dak hasn't gotten them over the hump. I would be very concerned if I were Jerry Jones about locking in long-term to huge money to Dak Prescott. I like Dak, but
not that much.
He's not Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
But I love that. Anytime an athlete says it's not about the money, it is absolutely about the money. Dak's looking to get paid right now. And he's going to put the pressure on the Cowboys to do that. Or he knows if he becomes available that somebody else who needs a quarterback will pay him the money he's looking for.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Yeah, I think there's other teams out there who are saying he can win with us. He couldn't win with them, but he can win with us.
Yeah, you know how coaches work.
Yeah. Everybody.
And Dak's been very productive as the Cowboys quarterback. He's won a heck of a lot of games, but when you play for Dallas, you're judged by one thing. Have you gotten to a Super Bowl? Yeah. Have you won a championship? Have you been able to advance past the first round? I mean, they've had issues, and Dak hasn't looked good in a lot of situations in the postseason, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And Dak is one of those guys, like a lot of quarterbacks in the league, where he's not going to be able to carry you on his own like a Patrick Mahomes. That's just not who he is or what he does. He needs help around him. And when you're paying your quarterback a ton of cash, it's hard to build the team around them the way you need to.
Yeah.
Do you think it's time for the Cowboys to just move on? Because then you have to ask yourself, okay, if we move on from Dak, who are we going to get to replace him?
Well, that's the problem, and I'm sure that they're looking in training camp to, any of these guys behind him look like they might be able to play at some point.
Or maybe look at the draft in the near future.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, and Jared's the last guy that wants to take a step back to take a step forward. He didn't want any part of that.
He doesn't have time for it.
No.
He's up against it. He's getting up there in age, and he wants a championship. His desire for a championship has not produced anything over the last, 30 years? That's a long time. It's been 30 years.
Yeah.
The last time they won was that Super Bowl after the 95 season.
Chad, do you think they've been good enough in some of these past 5 or 6 years that they could have won one? I mean, I'm thinking mostly no.
Yeah, Dak hasn't been good enough. They've had some good teams.
Yeah.
And Dak hasn't performed in the postseason the way you need him to. Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. But there you go.
I wouldn't tie myself to him. I think his best years might be behind him anyway.
Yeah. And I'm sure that's what Jerry's thinking about.
Yeah.
So keep an eye on that situation. It could get a little bit ugly, especially when Dak's saying it's not about the money. That means it's all about the money. All right, Lamar Jackson, one of my favorites, love him to death. And he was talking about weight, losing weight. Let's take a listen.
Oh, how many pounds I lost? I'm like 2-something right now, but I just say it was important enough so I can be able to move around a little bit extra. That's all.
Could you share how you did it? Is diet, exercise, Mediterranean, cut out
Nah,
candy?
man, I'm a charge for that, because people be doing these little plans and stuff, and they still be, having their weight on them. No, not to offend anyone, nothing like that, but yeah, you have to pay for that.
I mean, he looked good to me, but he looked different when he first showed up. I couldn't really tell because he was so skinny, but he looked good.
All right, there you go. There is Zay Flowers talking about his quarterback. So he wants to play just under 230. And I got to be honest with you, I'm going to trust Lamar Jackson on this. His body looks pretty darn good to me.
Yeah.
So if he wants to be a little more agile with the way he moves, I mean, the guy's already electric when he's got the football in his hands. I think he's going to be fine. And he is coming off a very big-time productive season. I expect big things from the Ravens this year, and I expect Lamar Jackson to be right there in the end facing the Chiefs or one of those other teams in the AFC for supremacy. They had their chance last year, man. They were at home. They were hosting the Chiefs. It was their chance to get to the Super Bowl, and then they decided to put on the dum-dum cap and decide not to run the football. What they do better than anybody, run the football, and they don't run the football.
Mm-hmm.
After just blasting the Texans in the divisional round, they show up in the AFC title game and lay an egg. That was shocking to me. Not that the Chiefs won, but the way the Ravens played that game. So I think Lamar is going to be fine. I thought he played terrific football last year, but for him, much like we talk about with Dak, right, his postseason performances, until Lamar gets over the hump and gets his team to a Super Bowl, there's always going to be that question mark surrounding him.
Yeah.
Will he be able to do enough from the pocket, delivering the football on time and on target to get his team over the top?
Chad, he had a great year last year, I thought. I think it was terrific.
It was phenomenal.
Yeah, and my motto has always been, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
And I would want to come into camp exactly the same weight I was last year. I would want to be wearing the same clothes. I'd want to be not changing anything. Don't make me change. Let's run the same offense. Until somebody stops us, let's do the same things. We're good. Just leave it alone. Don't mess around too much. I don't know. Sometimes people want to change something that's really not worth changing.
Can you imagine some of the linebackers in the league saying, wait, what? He wants to get faster, lighter?
Yeah, but I think they wouldn't mind seeing him get a little lighter. It might make him a little easier to tackle.
Easier.
If you
It'll be
catch
harder
up.
to get to. Yeah, if you can catch up. That's the problem. The great thing about Lamar is that he's really good at avoiding heavy contact.
Mhm.
He's one of the best in the league at sliding, getting out of bounds, avoiding the big hit. He's really good at avoiding that. Where he gets himself into troubles like a lot of quarterbacks where you're standing in the pocket and you got guys rolling up on your legs. That's the dangerous part for him. But when he's out in the open field running, sometimes he'll lower his shoulder pad to prove a point, but most of the time he'll duck or slide and get out of the way.
Yeah.
I just like Lamar. I like what he's about. I like the way he works. I I like the way that he carries himself. He just does a lot of things the right way that I'm down with. And I want to see him have success.
Yeah, and I've told you this before. I agree with you. I like all those things about him, too. I just don't like watching them play a lot. It's not a team I enjoy. They run the ball too much for me. It's effective. I'm not saying it's a wrong thing. I'm just saying I don't enjoy watching predominantly running teams just mow other teams down. You know, I don't like that.
Well, if you would have grown up in Oklahoma with Barry Switzer like I did, you would grow accustomed to teams running the football every down and mowing teams down.
Thank God I didn't grow up in Oklahoma. But go ahead.
But I'm with you on that. It's not the most aesthetically pleasing brand of football. But what's crazy about the Ravens last year, they were the very best football team throughout from start until finish.
Mm-hmm.
And we all thought they were going to win that game against the Chiefs.
Yeah.
And you remember late in the season, they went into San Francisco and crushed the 49ers.
Yeah.
They were riding high going into the postseason. And then after that slow first half against the Texans, they erupted in the second half and destroyed them. It was just an afterthought, the AFC title game. The Chiefs were good. They had Patrick Mahomes, but they were a down year, down team. They didn't have the good defense. They couldn't stop the run.
And the game was in Baltimore.
Whew. The first time or the second time for Patrick Mahomes, he had gotten to Buffalo the week before and gotten the win, but it was like he's not going to win back-to-back road games for the first time in the postseason, and he did. It was tailor-made for the Ravens, and they couldn't get over the hump. That was surprising to me, based on the way they were playing. So we'll see how things shake out this year, but aside from some type of catastrophic injury to Lamar, the Ravens are going to be right there because organization's unbelievable. Their head coach is terrific, and they're going to do all the elements you need to win football games. Run the football, stop the run, and force turnovers. And that's why they're always up there near the top in the conference, because they do those things extremely well. And then they've got the electric playmaker at quarterback who can do the unthinkable sometimes for the big play.
Yeah, and I think it's a sound enough ownership group. They're taking care of players. I'm pretty sure players are treated right when they play there. They're comfortable there. The little things are done for them. The locker room's fine. The snacks are fine in the locker. You know, all those little things that players complain about.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty good atmosphere there.
Yeah, the Ravens are known as one of the very best organizations in football.
Mhm.
They have a system. They have an identity. They draft accordingly. And if you look at the moves they make, every time they go out and make a move, you're like, gosh, dang it, they got that guy? Yeah, that's such a Raven move. They find the guys. They know what they're looking for. It's so great when you have a plan and you've got the leadership and they know exactly what they're looking for, and they don't get outside of that. They continue to add to what they do best.
Yeah.
And John Harbaugh's brought a toughness and an identity to that team. They're a tough football team. When you play the Ravens, you were talking about, what's that phrase? We want them to feel us, right?
Yeah.
When you play the Ravens, you know you played them because they make you feel them.
Yeah. The next morning, you're still feeling them.
Black and blue.
Mm-hmm.
And for years, it was, the Steelers and Ravens were like, it was the most physical game in football. And if you looked at the record following that week for both the Ravens and Steelers, they always struggled in the next game after that game because of the physical contact and what that took out of them.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So we'll see. I just like Lamar, and I want to see him do well. And I like John Harbaugh, too. You couldn't find a more polar opposite to his crazy brother,
Oh, it's
Jim.
amazing.
They're not the same guy. Jim's crazy.
Yeah.
They're both great football coaches, but one's got the very casual demeanor.
That reminds me. Did you see what they're doing? They're forming the Harbaugh Football Academy. Did you see that?
Oh, they are.
Yeah, Jim and John, their father, and Bill Belichick. It's going to be mostly
some of the greatest minds in football history.
Yeah, it's going to be mostly online where coaches can join up and access coaching videos from all these guys.
Nathaniel Hackett needs a membership.
There's a lot of guys that need a membership in that academy. Who couldn't learn from those guys? I don't care how long you've been coaching. God, McVay, you better join up too. There's going to be a lot of knowledge shared there.
Well, that's a lot like the Manning football camp, where they have, Peyton, Eli, the dad, they'll host the quarterbacks and work with them.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you want to be a part of that because it's the freaking Mannings.
Yeah.
Belichick and the Harbaughs forming an academy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those are three of the best head coaches of all time.
Yeah. I think when I saw it, I pictured maybe a camp, actual camp with a brick and mortar, dorm or something. I don't think that's what it's going to be. It's mostly just an online thing and maybe one conference a year or two conferences a year where you bring everybody together and then they lecture. But, in fact, they did have, to announce it, they had some sort of a roundtable that Belichick was present on and got a lot of questions from other coaches.
I used to judge coaches based on how Bill Belichick thought about them.
Yeah, right. Well, it's not a bad barometer.
See, I always felt good when Mike Shanahan was coaching the Broncos because Belichick had a lot of respect for him. I thought, well, he must be a pretty good coach then because Belichick loves him. And same thing goes with the Harbaughs. Like, those guys are well respected. Like Jim, John, their father. I mean, they've been in the business of football forever. Can you imagine what the dinner table was like in that household growing up?
Yeah. I've heard the old man quite a few times. Is it Jack? Is his dad Jack? I can't remember.
It might be Jack.
Yeah. He's laying the law down a lot as a coach and as a dad, I think. Pretty stern.
Yeah, Jack Harbaugh.
Yeah.
Yep. Elway's dad, Jack Elway, his dad. A lot of these players who have dads that were a coach, it's an advantage in a lot of ways, right?
Sure.
Because you grow up, and a lot of these kids will break down film with their dads at a young age.
Bo Nix.
So you're learning how to study film, what to look for. You're just around it. You know, Kyle Shanahan was the same way growing up with his pops.
Mm-hmm.
You know, these guys, they just absorb so much at a young age. They can't get enough of it.
Belichick's son, now an assistant at UW, right?
Yeah. Belichick's been making the rounds, showing up at a lot of different places.
Yeah.
He's doing exactly what we said he would do. He's going on the media circuit, getting his name out there, starting the process of repairing the curmudgeon image that he's been carrying for quite some time.
Visiting a lot of football coaches, though, too. Just, continuing. This is, the guy still is trying to learn more, which is why he's who he is.
Yeah, and he knows, when Belichick arrives, he's going to ask questions, he's going to take notes, and he's going to look at something you do and be like, that's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll keep it for himself.
Mm-hmm.
That's what a lot of coaches do.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of sharing. Yeah, for sure.
And then a lot of times, coaches will watch games of different, teams or coaches or players or whatever, and they see something, they're like, hey, that's a good concept. And then they start to draw something up of how they can include that concept in what they do. I'm fascinated by all of that. It is a copycat league. It's like, oh, that does work. We should try that sometime.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see how things continue to shake out. But there you go. Lamar Jackson going to be under 230, or that's what he hopes. And that means a faster Lamar Jackson, if you can imagine that. All right, coming up next, we got some high fives to hand out. Dwight and Chad, you got the Rip City Drive on this Thursday, and we're coming into Memorial Day weekend, so I hope all of you have an enjoyable extended weekend. All right, Shacker, since you're such a trooper in helping with the show, I'll let you give out the first high five today. Hopefully it's not what you mentioned to me during the break.
No, I'm happy that Oregon State baseball got the win today. So I want to give a high five to Arizona baseball to encourage them to win their game to give Oregon State a chance to play in the semifinals. High five, Arizona baseball.
All right, so they need Arizona to win.
Yeah, and then Oregon State will be considered the wild card in the Pac-12 championships.
You think Arizona's going to win, Godfather?
No. They don't have to, so they probably won't. And the team they're playing has to win. That's a bad recipe right there, especially when you're trying to save pitchers for upcoming games. Arizona's not going to use one of their good guys in that game tonight.
I'm sorry, Shacker, but the Godfathers just rained on your parade.
Well, let me give him another high five just to help him out.
Okay, now I changed my mind.
All right.
2 high fives is enough.
Who's going to get your high five, Godfather?
Boy, today's a tough one for me. I'm torn. I guess I should just give it to Oregon State for pulling out of a slump temporarily and winning today 3-2. They're not scoring runs much anymore, and they squeaked out a win thanks to a 2-run homer by Mason Guerra, who has not been hitting well at all, but somebody hit his bat with a fastball, and it went a long way over the left field fence. So Oregon State at least kept its hopes alive.
But if they get knocked out of the Pac-12 tournament, they'll still be able to host the first round of the.
You would think they'll still host the first round. They certainly won't host the second round, which you kind of have to host in order to go to Omaha. But I would worry that if they don't get any further in this Pac-12 tournament, they might lose hosting even in the first round. You never know.
It's so hard to explain. Why do bats all of a sudden go cold?
I don't know. It is amazing. They're just overpowering teams with their bats all season long. All of a sudden, that last game they played in Arizona, yeah, they didn't hit.
And this team needs to hit because their pitching's not reliable enough.
Yeah, and they've gotten good pitching recently and still haven't hit enough to win, which is crazy.
Well, my ladies Sooners will be kicking off their action tonight in the Norman Super Regional. They're taking on Florida State, so we're getting closer. I think my mom and dad are back in Oklahoma, so I think my dad and my Uncle Truman are going to go check out Oklahoma State in some softball action.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I'm going to give my high five to Kyrie Irving. He had 30 points last night.
That's a good call.
I continue to be amazed at his transformation with the Mavs. Love his attitude, his approach, the way he's playing, the way he's bought in. And it just goes back to show you that when great players accept their role, they can do whatever they want out there.
Yeah.
These guys can play with anyone if they're willing to do whatever it takes to make that happen. Because you would think that Luka is maybe not the easiest guy to play with, but you made a good point. Now that he's got more teammates around him he can trust, he doesn't have to have the ball in his hands at all times.
Yeah. Yeah, his usage rate is coming down slowly.
Man, because his usage rate, it's all usually off the charts.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got the ball half the time.
But that balance, and it's not easy to learn how to play alongside a guy like Luka, right? Isn't that tough for Kyrie?
Yeah, for Kyrie especially. That's a point guard who's used to having the ball all the time.
But maybe he's played with LeBron before. I guess past experience has probably helped out.
Hey, Kyrie has just calmed down. On the court, off the court, I think. I don't know what's gotten into him.
And we all go through funks. I've gone through funks.
Yeah.
I never arrived at the point where the earth was flat, but I've gone through my own funks. Right. Flat earthers. Which one do you find more amusing, the flat earthers or the people that think the moon landing was faked? Well, I guess I should ask you, do you think the moon landing was legit?
I do. But I think that's a lot. Well, wait a minute. The whole flat earth thing is much more absurd. The moon landing could have been faked. The flat earth thing could not be faked or even.
I know, but do you believe the moon landing happened?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
But I think it could have been faked. I mean, who knows? You see pictures on your TV, that's all we've really ever seen. Right?
Well,
I mean, I believe it. I'm not saying it didn't happen, but I could see where somebody might be able to believe that. I mean, how could you believe the earth is flat? I mean, like if it's flat, where does it end? Nobody's ever come up to that cliff where it ends and
Yeah,
fallen
you just
off?
fall off the end. Yeah, if you row your boat fall enough, you're going to fall off the edge.
I don't get that part of it.
I can understand back in ancient times before they had a better understanding why you might think that.
Right.
I interviewed Buzz Aldrin once, and
he confirmed that it's not flat, or
no, that the moon landing happened. And I love it when people question him. Like he punched that one guy in the face who wouldn't get out of his face. Hey, Buzz, are you going to tell people that it was a lie and it was a fake? And he kept asking the guy to go away. He was going to some convention at a hotel, and the guy wouldn't get out of his face, so Buzz finally just cracked him in the face.